serving the Republic of the Philippines for more than 75 years. Ito po ang Presidential Broadcast Service.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. This is Dateline Malacañang. The Philippine Embassy in Israel on Monday verified that 29 Filipinos initially reported missing. Of the 29, 22 have been rescued by Israeli security forces, transferred to a safer area, and are now housed in hotels, while one is being treated in a hospital for moderate injuries sustained during the rescue. Another Filipino was said to be initially treated for smoke inhalation, released after treatment, and now resting at a hotel in Tel Aviv. Both have been visited by Department of Migrant Workers or DMW Labor Attaché Rodolfo Gabasan and an Overseas Workers Welfare Administration or OWA welfare officer, and have offered assistance and essential supplies. The remaining 7 Filipinos remain unaccounted for and cannot be contacted via their mobile numbers and social media accounts. The embassy is coordinating with Israeli security authorities as well as with the Filipino community in Israel to ascertain their condition. Meanwhile, the embassy reiterates its earlier advice for Filipinos in Israel to remain in their residences as much as possible and avoid unnecessary travel to crowded areas. Always be ready to seek shelter once a siren alert is sounded. Continue to monitor the security situation through official advisories of the Israeli authorities, the embassy, and reliable media outlets, and coordinate with the embassy and their community and or group leaders.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Monday suspended Land Transportation, Franchising and Regulatory Board or LTFRB Chairman Chofilo Guadis III over alleged corruption. This is in the midst of corruption allegations hounding the LTFRB under Guadis's leadership. In a statement, Presidential Communications Office or PCO Secretary Cheloy Garafil said that the President does not tolerate any misconduct in his administration and has instructed the immediate investigation of this matter, adding that President Marcos strongly condemns dishonesty and duplicity in public service. Earlier, former executive assistant of Guadis, Jeffrey Tumbado, along with Transport Group Manibela, exposed the alleged corruption by the agency. Manibela Chair Mar Valbuena, in response to the allegations, announced to hold a nationwide transport strike on Monday, October 16th. In a separate statement, Department of Transportation or DOTR Secretary Jaime Bautista said that an investigation is underway and the suspended LTFRB chief has also been issued a notice to explain and shed light on the allegations. Before the suspension, Guadis announced that the LTFRB will bring back the Libreng Sakay or free ride program for jeepneys and buses this coming November. Guadis said the agency will release the 1.3 billion peso fund this November and start with Metro Manila, including public utility jeepneys or PUJs. He said that priority will be given to PUJs and cooperatives that were not given priority during the pandemic.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippines Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, on Monday said that the country wants to craft a national strategy that would deal with the exploration and exploitation of deep-sea mineral resources in the future. Together with Jamaica-based International Seabed Authority, or ISA, the Philippines is hosting a 2-day National Capacity Development Workshop on deep-sea related issues to discuss the framework needed to enable the country to participate in ocean mining. In his remarks, Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Charles Jose noted that resources containing cobalt, manganese, copper, nickel, and other rare minerals are believed to be abundant on the seabed ocean floor, most of which are beyond national jurisdictions. Mario Aurelio, ISA Legal and Technical Commission Commissioner, hoped the workshop would allow stakeholders to look at how the Philippine Mining Act can be revised in accordance with international law. A country can only participate in activities in the ISA if it has a United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea or UNCLOS-compliant deep-sea mining legislation. The ISA regulates and controls all minerals resources-related activities in the so-called the area or the seabed beyond a country's national jurisdiction for the benefit of mankind as a whole. The ISA has already issued at least 31 exploration contracts in the Pacific, Indian, and Atlantic Oceans while developing regulations for the mining itself. ISA Secretary General Michael Lodge said, "One part of the abyssal plain, an underwater plain on the deep ocean floor between Hawaii and Mexico alone, also known as the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, contains more copper, cobalt, nickel, and manganese than all the remaining terrestrial reserves of those minerals."
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Army, or PA, and Australian Defence Forces, or ADF, Special Operation Forces will hold counter-terrorism drills and related exercises from the 16th to the 27th of October at the Western Command, or WESCOM, area of operations in Palawan Province. This bilateral exercise, known as Dawn Karacha 2023, aims to enhance the interoperability of both services. In a Facebook post, WESCOM said that the exercise will be held in El Nido and will primarily focus on conducting counter-terrorism operations and special operations, showcasing the capabilities of the two forces. Preparations for Dawn Karacha 2023 began October 7th as Philippine Army Special Operation Forces troops held pre-exercise movements and operational briefings. The exercise presents an opportunity for both units to showcase their skills, strengthen their partnership, and foster increased collaboration. It also aims to enhance collaboration in tackling complex security challenges on the country's western front. Speaking at the Australian Institute of International Affairs prior to the 6th Philippine-Australia Ministerial Meeting in Adelaide on Monday, Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, Enrique Manalo said, the two countries have agreed to reinforce commitment as maritime democracies to ensure maritime safety and security, freedom of navigation, and overflight. He added that part of this support for a rules-based order is Australia's unequivocal support for the 2016 Arbitral Award on the South China Sea and its rejection of historic claims that have no basis in international law. Manalo, meanwhile, pointed out that the Philippines will play its part not to confront nor provoke, but to honor our commitment to our people for the protection of our sovereignty, territorial integrity, and regional stability.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, modernization program is now being reconfigured or shifted to provide the military with the capabilities needed to protect the country's exclusive economic zone, or EEZ, or the 200 nautical miles from its coast. In an interview, Military Chief General Romeo Bronner Jr. confirmed that the shift is now undergoing in Horizon 3 of the AFP modernization program. Bronner said this reconfiguration, while still defensive in nature, was recommended by Department of National Defense or DND Secretary Gilberto Chodoro Jr. shortly after his appointment last June, replacing then Defense Senior Undersecretary Carlito Galvez Jr., who was reappointed as Presidential Peace Advisor. Bronner added that the original Horizon 3 was made prior to the events that happened, the water cannoning, laser pointing, and the like. Bronner was referring to the incidents where the Chinese tried to interfere with Philippine resupply efforts to its detachment aboard the BRP Sierra Madre, which is keeping watch over Ayungin Shoal in the West Philippine Sea, or WPS. He said the original Horizon 3 was made with territorial defense in depth in mind, meaning the military has to wait for threats to come near before engaging them, and consists of first, second, third, and fourth line of defense. This means, he said, defensive efforts will now focus on defending the Philippines' EEZ and not only the country's baselines or coasts. Bronner said this refocus is similar to the United States defense strategy of forward defense, where threats are contained or repulsed as far away as possible. In this shift, he said, the AFP is aiming to protect Philippine-held islands in the WPS, which he identified as Pag-asa, Panata, Parola, Likas, Patag, and Lawak. Aside from these islands, the country is also occupying 4 other features in the WPS: the Kota Island, Likas Island, Rizal Reef, and Ayungin Shoal. Bronner said the AFP needs equipment capable of projecting defenses forward to carry out this mission. Under Horizon 3, which is now being tweaked, Bronner said there are plans to increase the numbers of multi-role fighters, or MRFs, from the initial 12 units planned earlier. The AFP chief did not specify on how many MRFs will be added, as the Air Force is still finalizing on the planned numbers. Horizon 3 was initially scheduled from 2023 to 2028, while Horizon 2 was from 2018 to 2022, and Horizon 1 from 2013 to 2017. But he stressed that these are more potent and have more numbers.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Navy and United States Navy successfully conducted on Monday the second day of the Air Defense Exercise, or ADEX, of the Sama-Sama 2023 bilateral exercise of the two navies. The ADEX tests the capabilities of warships to identify and track incoming planes or drones. According to Naval Forces Southern Luzon, or NAVFORSOL, Public Affairs Office Director Lieutenant Kim Paulo Lopez, it is important to hold the exercise in order to protect vital assets, maintain readiness, and strengthen coordination with allied forces. Aside from this, the participating Navy ships and helicopters will do cross-deck landing and maneuvering of ships that make up solidarity, loyalty, and victory formations that symbolizes coordination, commitment, and unity among the two countries. An estimated 700 sailors from different units of the Philippine Navy participated in the exercise using Philippine assets such as the BRP Antonio Luna, AW-109 naval helicopter, C-90 aircraft, and the Naval Special Operations Unit. The Sama-Sama 2023 is a yearly bilateral Navy-to-Navy exercise between the Philippines and the United States that will last until October 13th, 2023.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, Philippine House Speaker Martin Romualdez on Tuesday lauded President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s directive to Department of Agriculture or DA officials to use excess collections for the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund or RCEF to help rice farmers boost agricultural production and ensure a steady food supply for Filipinos. In a statement, Romualdez said, excess collections from rice tariffs channeled into supporting rice farmers will enable them to access modern farming technologies, improve their agricultural practices, and increase their productivity. The Presidential Communications Office, or PCO, citing the President's recent meeting with DA officials, said, the RCEF excess collection beyond the 10 billion peso requirement should be used to provide drying, mechanization, and other equipment support to rice farmers to sustain their productivity. Republic Act, or RA number 11203, or the Rice Tariffication Act, states that revenues collected from rice tariffs should pay for the yearly requirement of 10 billion pesos for the RCEF to fund programs and projects that will raise the competitiveness and output of palay or unhusked rice farmers. Romualdez said, through the additional assistance, the President wants to help cut production costs of rice farmers, which would eventually translate to lower rice prices for the consumers. Romualdez earlier vowed that the House would provide around 40 billion pesos in additional funding for irrigation projects under the 2024 national budget to support the President's goal to increase agricultural production in the country. Aside from the use of excess RCEF collections, President Marcos also recently approved the release of 12.7 billion pesos in assistance to rice farmers. The amount will be distributed to 2.3 million small rice farmers who will each get 5,000 pesos under the Rice Farmers Financial Assistance or RFFA program of the government. The financial assistance is part of the government's efforts to support small rice farmers who will be affected by the lifting of the price cap on rice. The National Food Authority Council, chaired by the President, also increased NFA's buying prices of palay from 19 to 23 pesos per kilo for dry palay and 16 to 19 pesos per kilo for wet palay to give Filipino farmers better income. President Marcos also ordered the Department of the Interior and Local Government, or DILG, to enjoin all local government units, or LGUs, to rationalize the pass-through fees and other transport costs imposed on motor vehicles transporting goods like rice and other products, according to the PCO. Executive Order 41, issued by President Marcos on the 25th of September, prohibits LGUs from collecting toll fees and charges from all vehicles transporting goods or merchandise while passing through national roads and other thoroughfares not built or funded by them.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippines Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, on Tuesday held a press briefing to give an update on the situation of overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, in Israel who are in the midst of a conflict between Palestinian militant group Hamas. Let's listen to the press briefing of the Department of Migrant Workers.
Magandang hapon, Malacañang Press Corps, and welcome sa ating press briefing ngayong araw, October the 10th. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has ordered agencies to closely coordinate with the Philippine Embassy in Tel Aviv and the Migrant Workers Office in Israel to secure all Filipinos affected by the conflict between Israeli forces and the Palestinian militant group Hamas. The Departments of Foreign Affairs and Migrant Workers and the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration are working double time to ensure the safety of Filipinos affected by the situation in Israel. And to give us an update on this, we are joined by Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Eduardo De Vega, DMW OIC Undersecretary Hans Leo Kakdak, and OWA Administrator Arnel Ignacio. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Let's start with you, Sec De Vega.
Good afternoon, everyone. As mentioned, the President has given instructions to our agencies. It is a whole of government approach, and it does not involve only the DFA and the DMW, including DMW OWA, but we are meeting with other government agencies such as the DND, DSWD, DOLE, TESDA, and other offices as we work together to ensure the safety and protection of our kababayans in Israel and Gaza. Let us remember that the situation is not just one which affects territory which is now in the state of Israel, but also in Palestine, specifically in the Gaza Strip, where there has been a shift in the center of hostilities after the weekend where we saw, and you have reported, the Hamas attacks on the south of Israel. But we are here to assure you that the government is on top of the situation. We're doing everything we can, and we will update you, or we will brief you now on the steps we're undertaking. Aside from the Philippine Embassy in Tel Aviv, our embassies in Amman, Jordan, which has jurisdiction over the Palestinian territories, and Cairo, Egypt, because it is at the border of Gaza, are also part of our working group. All right, so I'd like to turn over to you, USEC Hans Kakdak, OIC Hans Kakdak, actually, of the Department of Migrant Workers, to talk about the situation involving our Filipino workers in Israel so far.
Yes, thank you, USEC Ed and Admin Arnel and Sec Daphne and everyone here. Greetings to everyone. Since the presidential directive to monitor the status of our dear OFWs in Israel, last Saturday we put up the 24/7 Task Force Israel Help Desk over at the DMW OWA, and we have received 83 requests for assistance from OFWs and OFW families, and we had updated the status of 76 of the 83 OFWs mentioned in the request for assistance, and are still seeking updates on the status of 7 more. And of course, we also put out a Google survey. We emailed, because we do have the email addresses of OFWs in Israel, so we put out Google survey, through the emails of the OFWs, and 313 had already responded from the affected areas and had marked themselves safe in the affected areas where there's an approximately around 300 plus OFWs. When I say affected areas, I mean to say the southern part of Israel that is close to the Gaza Strip border. And lastly, my last update would be yesterday, Labor Attaché Rudy Gabasan and OWA Welfare Officer Dina Ponciano, of course tasked by myself and Admin Arnel, to proceed to Beersheba and visit the hospitalized OFW whose right arm had been grazed by a bullet. He is fine, in good spirits, recovering, and is, as we speak, being transferred from Beersheba up to Tel Aviv. It was also a chance for Labat Gabasan and Welfare Officer Ponciano to visit what we call the rescue areas or centers that have been put up by the Israeli government. You know, the Israeli government, coordinated by the PE Embassy in Tel Aviv, IDF had been undertaking rescue efforts on the ground. And sino man nasasagip nila, dinadala dun sa rescue areas. At dinalaw yon ni Labor Attaché Gabasan and Welfare Officer Ponciano. At doon nagbigay ng ayuda, of course, aside from checking up on the well-being, not just physical, but the psychosocial well-being of our OFWs there. So the effort continues, and with respect to our dear OFWs, and hopefully things will, the situation on the ground will get better, and we'll have more peaceful resolutions to the current conflict so that our OFWs can resume their work.
Thank you.
Thank you. As you may have seen, OWA is in a 24-hour non-stop work mode, and we're also in full cooperation and full coordination with the DFA, the DMW, and our the IDF in Israel. And we put up a command center in OWA. And currently, yung pong ilan sa ating mga kababayan na huminga ng tulong, dyan po dumadaan lahat. And kung ano man ang amin pong information that we get, we always coordinate with the DMW and the DFA. Currently, yung isa po nga sa OFWs na asawa ni Gelianor Liano Pacheco is with us para po naman ay mabigyan natin ng psychosocial intervention, kasi siya po yung misis nung ating pong hinahanap na isang OFW in Israel. So we can assure you that with the experience that we've had, hindi naman po ito isang bagong bagay sa OWA. We have been together to address crisis like this in Egypt, Russia. We would lahat naman po ito na naranasan na natin, and with this experience we assure you that for any situation, OWA, the DMW, and the DFA will be working hand in hand together para po mabigyan ng mga pangangailangan ang ating pong mga OFWs in Israel.
Okay. Thank you. Let's open the floor now to questions. Let's start with Maricel Halili, TV5.
Magandang hapon po. May we have an update about po dun sa repatriation of our Filipinos residing in Israel? Gano'n na po karami sa kanila yung nagsabi na gusto na nilang magpa-repatriate, and ready na po ba tayo for repatriate?
Magandang hapon. Una, kailangan natin maalala, tulad ng sinabi namin, yung affected areas talaga kung saan pumasok yung Hamas ng weekend are in the south of Israel. There are roughly 30,500 Filipinos in Israel. The majority of those, the vast majority, 95%, according to our embassy, are not situated in the southern areas near Gaza. No, there are some cities of Israel in the area, such as Sderot, Ashdod, and others, Beersheba, where we have a total of around 300 Filipinos. And the embassy has been in touch with them to make sure that they're all right. Karamihan natin mga kababayan are in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, or Haifa, further up north. Wala pang nagsasabi na gusto nilang ma-repatriate. This situation between the Hamas and the Israeli authorities is sadly a cyclical thing, which our kababayans are well aware of. They are very resilient, just like the people who they're living with in Israel, and they do not ask for repatriation whenever is a conflict, because by past experience, what happens is that, well, after a few days, hopefully this will be the case as well, tulad ng sinabi ng ating dalawang gentlemen dito, no? After a few days, there's a session of hostilities. So they haven't asked. We are ready to repatriate them, to bring them home if that's what they want. The situation is different in Gaza, in Palestine, where you have about 137 Filipinos. They're not OFWs. They are Filipino family members. They are Filipinas married to Palestinians, and some of the 137 are their minor children, so they are also Philippine nationals. And parami ng parami, but right now, according to our embassy in Amman, there are about 38 who have asked to be repatriated, and we are in the process, and we are working on it. So, dun po, sa Gaza meron nagpaparepatriate, sa Israel, wala po.
Sir, just a quick confirmation. Meron na po ba tayong balita kung totoo na merong fatalities na Filipino in Israel? Because merong lumalabas na news na mukhang meron na raw.
We heard that. We cannot confirm that because we do not want to cite, to confirm anything without being 100% sure of the facts. May I ask my colleagues here also to give the perspective from the DMW and OWA?
Yes, as far as we have been told by the Philippine Embassy, there is also close coordination with the IDF, International Defense Forces. Of course, for OFWs, we are also in touch with their employers, so that we can get the full facts. And thus far, agree with you, Sec Ed. There has been no confirmation of the reported fatality, although the matter has been forwarded to the Israeli side, to Israeli government.
But we wish to emphasize also that the President himself has already stated on behalf of the Filipino nation that we condemn these acts of violence, especially against civilians.
Nestor Corrales, Philippine Daily Inquirer.
Just a follow-up, so may we know how many Filipinos are currently unaccounted for in Israel and how many are held hostage, if any?
On that being held hostage, we have no absolute confirmation that there is a single Filipino being held hostage. But yes, it is true that there are about 7 Filipinos who, shall we say, whose whereabouts we are uncertain of, no? I'd like to ask my colleagues to share some details.
Yes, we're hoping that the number of OFWs whose updates or status we are still trying to get ourselves updated with will continue to go down. It was around 15 or 16 last weekend. So we have slowly accounted for the status of our respective OFWs. Of course, in total it was 83, but slowly we are updating their status and have accounted for most of them. So hopefully the trend continues, and we'll have a complete accounted roster of OFWs in Israel.
Yung isa po doon, tulad ng banggit na ni Administrator Arnel, nakita raw niyo yung asawa niya sa video, yun isa yun sa mga missing Filipinos, pero please yung
Yes,
tungkol
so
sa missing.
the wife of Galino Leaño Pacheco ay nakita daw niya yung kanyang mister, pero
Sa
video, pero as I've said, we would like to be 100% sure. So what we did is to kinuha po natin yung kanyang wife, and currently nandito siya sa OWA ngayon para naman mas mabigyan siya na mas makalma natin kasama yung anak niya. And karagdagan lang, no, we would like to let you know that most of the reports that you get, we also get them. But we are very, very careful as to what we will tell the media. Kasi katulad po ng mga nauna ng mga reports, upon verification, hindi naman po totoo. And we'd like to appeal to our kababayans. Each time that you make transmissions from where you are, it can jeopardize your situation. Maaari kayong matrace. And then pangalawa, it instills unnecessary fear doon po sa ating mga kababayan. So it's best that we be very cautious about sharing information, unconfirmed, especially unconfirmed and verified information bago natin sila ilabas. So I hope you understand bakit kami ay ingat na magbigay ng mga ganong uri ng informasyon. Now, ano ba yung katapat naman nun? As you see, as you observe, the DMW, DFA, and OWA, tuloy-tuloy na nagtatrabaho. Katulad nung simula na ang dami nating mga sinabi na hindi makita. Ngayon, bumababa na itong mga numero na to. And tuloy-tuloy pa rin tayong hinahanap ito. Hindi lamang ito kasi, hindi lamang ang ating side ang nakikipagtulungan. In fact, IDF is also working closely with us. In fact, yung ilan po sa ating mga nailigtas at nadala sa mas ligtas na lugar, ito po ay hinatid ng IDF ng Israel. So we're working very closely with them.
Yung dagdag ko lang, sorry, yung isa pa lang unaccounted a few days back, yung nagkaroon ng smoke inhalation, isa yun sa mga dinalaw ng labat ng DMW at ng well-off ni Admin Arnella, and she is safe and she's currently up in Tel Aviv already. Recovered, wala na siya sa ospital.
Kaya nagpapasalamat din tayo sa State of Israel. Pinangakuan ng ambassador nila dito na hindi lang naman nila bibigyan ng protection ng sariling citizens, pero pati rin yung mga iba kasama ng mga Pilipino doon. To add to what Administrator Ignacio was saying, for example, we don't want to be alarmist. Yes, it's true na may missing Filipinos, pero it's possible they're still in the bunkers, they're still kasi meron pa rin konting gun battles between Israeli forces and some Palestinian fighters in south of Israel, so maybe they're still in hiding or so, and eventually lilitaw na rin, hopefully. And also on the details, remember it's a security situation, so in case they were abducted, we don't want to give details because that will endanger their lives. It will worsen their situation.
Ivan Mayrina, GMA7.
Gentlemen, sir, good afternoon. Based on reports that we've been seeing from foreign media, Gaza City is under heavy bombing, perhaps as we speak. Meron ho ba tayong impormasyon kung anong kondisyon ng mga kababayan natin doon? At bukod po sa bombing, tinigil daw po ang supply ng pagkain, kuryente, fuel, even water, papunta sa Gaza City.
All right. It is true that there's bombing and that, well, actually, Gaza has been in lockdown. I'm sorry, the Israelis, since for some years, have put a blockade on Gaza, and that's part of the reason. Part of the reason for the difficult relationship, right now, between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Ang ating mga kababayan, so far, walang casualties, walang wounded, because ang tina-target ng Israel specifically are Hamas targets. And we would like to think that our kababayans in Gaza are not, involved with the Hamas. And so the Israelis themselves have said that they have been warning civilians in Gaza before they strike particular buildings, no? As for the yung electricity, okay, this has been happening. This is not the first time that's happened, and I'm sure the kababayans, while they are not in the best of conditions right now, know what to do. Of course, some have already asked for repatriation, and it's complicated by the fact that there's no international airport in Gaza. No, there's none. You can't even leave by the sea because also the blockade includes sea. There's no port, the way you know ports are. But there's always diplomatic initiatives. There are the exit points both to Israel or through Egypt, which are heavily guarded by both Egypt or Israel. So there are measures now being undertaken so that we could hopefully bring them home as soon as possible. But right now, no casualties among the Filipinos in Gaza.
Having mentioned all those challenges, Yusek, how soon can we execute this plan to repatriate our kababayan? Ito hong 38 na sabi na gusto nila magpa-repatriate.
I don't want to lie to you and give a date. I will tell you as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay. Harley Valbuena, DZME. Alan.
Hello, good afternoon po, sirs. Yusek Kakdak, may we know if there are OFWs that are set to be deployed in Israel for the next few weeks or months? And in line with that, are we open on asking the President for a possible deployment ban sa Israel po?
Okay, first question. Right now, deployment is on hold mainly because we know that the Ben Gurion International Airport is closed, although there might have been developments in the last few hours on that. But nevertheless, we are in touch with, as you know, there's a government-to-government hiring arrangement in partnership with the Israeli labor and immigration authorities, especially with respect to hotel workers. So we are in close coordination with the Israeli PIBA, that's the name of the government agency counterpart that we have. And at the proper time, deployment will resume, especially for our, what we call G2G hotel workers for Israel. And with respect to a deployment ban in general, we're looking toward USEC Ed and the DFA, because we know that the deployment ban framework is anchored on the alert level system, alert level set also by the Department of Foreign Affairs, and this is in accordance with the law.
Okay.
For now po, sir, on hold muna yung deployment. Tama po ba ako?
Just because of the incident, dati
right now, what's proceeding is the deployment of hotel workers. So right now, because of the alert, kasi it takes alert level 3 to hold the deployment. Alert level 2 for new hires and alert level 3 for all types of workers. So wala pa tayo sa alert level 2. So technically wala pa tayong deployment ban sa ngayon. But again, the situation we are in is that we have a government-to-government hiring arrangement with our Israeli counterparts. So it's a two-way street. We have to be well coordinated with our Israeli labor and immigration counterparts before we even proceed, kahit na walang ban.
Okay. Alan Francisco, PTV4.
Hi ma'am, hi gentlemen. Ilan po sir yung aalis na yon?
Sa hotel workers kasi, we are deploying around on average around 1,000 let's say 1,800 in a given year, kasi it's just the second year of implementation of the G2G arrangement. Yung sa caregivers, naka-hold siya over the last year, no? But sa hotel workers, that's ongoing. So that's around 1,800. So that's approximately maybe 100 or so per month. So we, again, the situation is manageable kasi nga nakatimbre tayo dun sa counterpart natin sa Israel. So even before we say yes here, they have to say yes over there and vice versa. Sabay din magde-decide bago matuloy yung deployment.
May I add also, may sabi si Yusek, no, naka-hold yung deployment ng caregivers last year. This has not to do with the conditions, working conditions of the caregivers, but with the negotiations for the G2G agreement. Karamihan ng mga Filipinos sa Israel are caregivers, but now we are working now for other workers, including yung sinabi
hotel
ni
workers.
Hotel workers, but yung caregivers is a special case, so they're negotiating with, well, they were, and then, well, now this happened, so we will work on it after hostilities cease, hopefully as soon as possible.
Sir, balikan ko lang yung sitwasyon sa Israel. Anong point sir na kailangan ng kailangan na magpatupad ng probably forced evacuation. I understand, nakasasabi niyo lang po kanina, wala pang gustong mag-repatriate ng ating mga kababayan.
Yung force, let me clarify yung alert levels. So, alert level precautionary phase, yung alert level 1, pag nag-uumpisa na yung if there are incipient threats to the safety and security of our kababayans there. Precautionary phase. Alert level 2, restricted phase, meaning bawal na magpadala ng bagong workers. Alert level 3, voluntary repatriation, meaning sumama na yung situation, although there is still order in the country. Alert level 4, yun na talaga yung breakdown of order and of practically full-scale war. By the way, we could have alert levels only in one particular place. Hindi to alert level the entire country. Our embassy in Amman, which controls Gaza, which has jurisdiction over Gaza, has recommended na ilagay na yung Gaza to alert level 3, which is voluntary repatriation. So hindi pa mandatory. So this will be clear with the President. As for Israel, our embassy has not yet made a recommendation, although we are working, our task force is working by the presumption that we're in the precautionary phase because we have to prepare, no? So as for when we will call on a mandatory evacuation, well, if the situation, we'd like to be optimistic, no? Escalates that not just what's happening now, but pretty much that the Israelis are no longer able to defend the citizenry, and they are themselves asking for foreigners to leave. If you remember in Sudan, even recently, even the two warring factions were saying foreigners should leave. So that's a great example of voluntary or mandatory repatriation. The Israeli government is in control of Israel. And now they are the ones undertaking operations against Gaza. So we would like to call eventually for a peaceful solution and respect for international law, and hopefully peace will prevail. So wala pa tayo situation nun. Hopefully our efforts now are on ensuring the safety, monitoring the safety of our kababayans, including hopefully we'll be able to find out what happened to the 7 who are missing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Alvin Baltasar, PBS.
Yusek, Kakdak, magandang hapon po. Yusek, medyo clarification lang ng kaunti doon sa deployment. Opo. Parang sa pagkakasabi nyo kanina, apparently mukhang suspended muna yung deployment. Pero nabanggit nyo rin kanina na parang lumalabas na selected lang yung pansamantalang deployment ng mga manggagawa. Gaya ng hotel workers, pwede silang tumuloy pa rin.
Kasi sa ngayon talagang walang deployment ng new hires ng caregivers, no? As mentioned by Yusek Ed, mayroong pang negotiations to renew, no, or to resume the deployment. Ngayon, what is functioning right now is the government to government hiring ng hotel workers. Dalawa kasi 'yun eh. Government to government hiring ng caregivers maybe 2020, 2021, and then 2022 nagsimula yung hotel workers. So naka-hold ngayon yung sa caregivers, but on a not, as mentioned by Yusek Ed, not related to the current situation. It's because there are current negotiations taking place between both sides. Ngayon, doon sa hotel workers ay meron pa rin government to government hiring. We're looking at the airport situation in Israel and consult with our counterparts, yung labor and immigration authorities, as to whether pwede muling mag-resume. As I said, it's a two-way street. Kahit sabihin natin ditong go na, pero kung sabihin ng Israel side, hold muna, then hold. And vice versa. Kung sinabi nila sa atin na go na, pero sabihin natin, teka, sandali, kung may alert level, ay hindi rin. Pero sa ngayon, walang alert level. So from our side, walang impediment, but we will still have to check with our Israeli counterparts. First, yung airport situation, although we've heard some news na parang magbubukas or bukas na. And then second, whether or not we can already have that flow, renewed flow of deployment ng hotel workers for Israel.
So, ibig sabihin, Yusek, ay naghihintay lang tayo ng go signal talaga.
Yes. All it takes is just we will check with our Israeli counterparts kung okay na naman, kung bukas na naman. Kasi nga, since last weekend sarado yung Ben Gurion International Airport. But what we've heard so far are press releases, so we need to officially confirm.
Also, again, we wish to emphasize the conflict is in the southern part. Kasi imagine, for example, in the Philippines, although the size is different, no? Imagine Filipinos are mostly working, for example, in the Metro Manila area, and then the conflict would be somewhere in Mindanao. Parang ganon. So it doesn't mean that the kababayans or in Tel Aviv are in grave danger right now. Although, of course, they have to take precautions. We just heard, what was that, a buzzer? That's common in Israel during these times. That's a warning to the people, oh, may darating na missile. Everybody to the bomb shelter. Well, their Iron Dome handles or intercepts those missiles. Yung rockets fired by Gaza last weekend mostly were towards the southern cities. In fact, they caused a lot of damage and even deaths. There were a few which reached Tel Aviv, pero by then humihina na yun the thing. So our kababayans in Tel Aviv and in Haifa are, of course, monitoring the situation, and they're in touch with the embassy. They are safe, and right now the situation is all towards Gaza and in the extreme south or extreme areas of the border with Gaza, no? So again, repeat, yung iba yung workers pero caregivers, hindi to deployment suspension dahil nagkaroon ng gera, no, ng hostilities, but even from last year, nor was it caused because we are disappointed with the way they're being treated. But there are new rules with Israel which we have to, ano ba yung
Hindi pa lang tapos ang
kailangan
negotiation.
makipagtugma sa POE
Yes,
regulations.
We're just
Yeah.
talking things over
Yeah.
with them.
So, and we are optimistic. We always have to be optimistic about, lalo na kami, as a diplomat, about how peace would prevail.
Undersecretary De Vega, I have a question. What are the latest travel updates? The Holy Land is a very popular tourist site for many Filipinos. In the coming weeks, some people have already bought some trips.
We haven't put a travel ban on Israel, but our embassy has issued a travel advisory. As much as possible, avoid traveling right now. I'm sure even a lot of Israeli officials would echo that. Well, because of course, if you insist, though, the Holy Land sites are not where the hostilities are happening. For example, Jerusalem, which is about an hour's drive away from Tel Aviv, is closer to the West Bank, or you might say it's part of the West Bank, and Bethlehem is in the Palestinian territories, a few minutes from Jerusalem. Wala dong hostilities. In the north, Nazareth, where where Jesus Christ grew up, no, is also a popular tourism place. We're not telling you not to go, but we're advising you it's best, if possible, to postpone them until we're absolutely sure that the hostilities have ended. Because, after all, even the Prime Minister of Israel has said that we're in a state of war. So it's not normal for somebody to want to visit a country which is in a state of war. So it's not a ban. There's no ban. But if you could, Mamaya ko tip, remember, if you're a tourist and there's a problem, kayo na maging problem. There were some people nahirapan umuwi recently, pero nakauwi rin. So advisory is hold off muna.
Okay. And any more questions? Okay, Sam Medinilla, Business Mirror.
For Yusek De Vega po. Tatanong lang po namin kung ano po yung current na alert levels ng Gaza Strip at saka ng Israel po mismo.
Wala pong alert level yung Israel because hindi pa nire-recommend ng embassy. Yung Gaza, well, of course, walang official alert level kasi wala naman tayong deploy na Filipino workers doon. All the Filipinos there are just there because they're married, no, to Palestinians. Pero ni-recommend na ng embassy gawing alert level 3 yung Gaza, meaning voluntary repatriation, which also means restricted phase na yan. And hindi pa na-announce na final, pero we are going by that. Parang de facto na kahit hindi pa officially pinirma ng presidente or in-announce, we could say that it's under voluntary repatriation na. And the only issue is, well, voluntary repatriation, but how to repatriate them, because that's what we're working on diplomatically. Because it's not a simple matter po na magpapadala tayo ng aeroplano, mag-hire ng charter ng aeroplano, kasi wala nga flights or even ships. The normal way to get out of Gaza is through Israel, through the border with Israel, but which is obviously closed. So, so let us assume, that's work by the principle, by the assumption that they are on alert level 3.
Pero sir, bakit hindi po alert level 4 na mandatory repatriation po yung recommended for Gaza Strip?
Well, because this is a situation which sadly is kind of a regular thing, which the Filipinos in Palestine already know about, no? Pero it could go up. Without saying it will, let's see how the next few days goes.
Tapos last na lang sir, mag-deploy po ba yung government ng augmentation team para po dun sa ongoing na preparation for possible repatriation?
They haven't asked yet, but we are all ready to do whatever it takes, including that.
Lalo na kung bukas na yung airport.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you. And that concludes our press briefing today. Thank you, Undersecretary De Vega, Undersecretary Kakdak, and Administrator Ignacio. Thank you, Malacañang Press Corps. Good afternoon.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, we would like to invite everyone to come and visit our Facebook page at Radyo Pilipinas World Service. You will be able to hear and view our Filipino and English programs, including news updates here in the Philippines. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our posts as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.